Okay, so you know how everyone's always saying the kitchen is like the heart of the home?
Uh-huh.
Well, we're about to get into like the nitty-gritty of how to make sure that heart is uh, beating safely and cleanly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, forget all the fancy cooking techniques and stuff for a sec.
Mm-hmm.
We're going back to basics here.
Okay.
The foundational skills that honestly every single person needs
Yeah.
the second they step foot in a kitchen.
Right. Right.
Seriously, whether you're someone who loves to whip up like a five-star meal or you're just figuring out how to make toast without burning it,
Uh-huh.
kitchen safety and basic hygiene are non-negotiable.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like building a house, right?
Oh, yeah?
You need that solid foundation
Totally.
before you can even think about the fancy stuff like interior design.
Exactly.
Think of this deep dive as like us giving you the tools and the knowledge
Mm-hmm.
to build that solid foundation for a confident and healthy
Yes.
cooking journey.
Okay, so tell me about the source material.
All right, so we dove deep into excerpts from NBLM Fuel Your Life, The Beginner's Guide to Meal Planning, specifically those chapters about kitchen safety and hygiene.
Oh, that's perfect for what we're talking about today.
Right, it's packed with practical advice, and our goal today is to share those essential insights
no.
to make sure your time in the kitchen is both enjoyable and safe.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump right in. First up, kitchen safety. Like staying alert and prepared.
Okay.
You know, it might seem like common sense, but this guide really emphasizes how important it is to be focused when you're cooking.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get distracted, right?
Absolutely.
Especially in today's world.
With everything going on. Yeah.
But the kitchen, even though it's a creative space, it demands your full attention.
You know, it's interesting. There's actually a whole psychological aspect to this.
Really?
Yeah, studies have shown that when you're trying to do a million things at once, multitasking,
Mhm.
it actually makes you way more likely to have an accident. Oh, wow, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we talk about staying alert, it's not just about avoiding those immediate dangers.
Right.
It's more about shifting your mindset to be truly present and focused on what you're doing.
Oh, I like that. It's like being mindful in the kitchen.
Exactly. It's a form of mindfulness, which naturally reduces errors and mishaps.
So basically, less multitasking, more mindfulness.
Exactly.
Got it.
And you know what goes hand in hand with mindfulness?
What's that?
A clear workspace.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I'm guilty of having a messy kitchen sometimes, especially when I'm in the middle of cooking.
We've all been there.
But seriously, this book stresses how important it is to keep your cooking area organized.
It's true. And it's not just about aesthetics.
Right.
Although a clean kitchen is always nice.
It is.
But a clutter-free workspace actually helps you move around more easily and makes it easier to find the tools you need when you need them,
Yeah, that's so important.
which, ultimately lowers the chances of accidents. It's like setting yourself up for success.
Exactly.
And if we think about the bigger picture, like how clutter affects us mentally,
Uh-huh.
there's research that shows a disorganized environment can actually increase stress hormones.
It's true. Our surroundings have a huge impact on our mental state.
Right.
So when you're less stressed and your workspace is tidy, you naturally become more focused
It makes sense.
and less likely to make impulsive decisions that could be risky.
So basically, a clear workspace equals a clear mind
Precisely.
and a safer kitchen.
Gotcha. Now, for those who might be new to cooking
Yeah.
or are trying out a recipe they've never made before,
Mm-hmm.
the guide makes a really good point. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
Like, seriously, there is absolutely no shame in admitting you're not sure how to use a certain gadget
Right.
or how to do a specific technique.
It's so much better to ask for guidance than to risk getting hurt.
Totally. I think a lot of times people feel like they need to know everything right away,
Right. But it's okay to not be an expert at everything.
especially when it comes to things that could be dangerous.
Exactly.
So asking for help is actually a sign that you're being proactive and that you care about your safety.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, it's about learning and building confidence.
Okay, so speaking of potential hazards, the book really emphasizes responsible tool usage.
Uh-huh.
It points out that every single item in your kitchen has a specific purpose,
Right.
and using it the wrong way can lead to injuries.
Totally. Whether it's knives or ovens,
Right.
or even things that seem simple like peelers.
Right. You've got to treat them all with respect and understand how to use them properly.
I think the key is to move beyond just knowing what a tool is,
Okay,
to actually understanding how to use it safely.
that makes sense.
For example, a lot of people think that a super sharp knife is more dangerous.
Yeah, I can see why people would think that.
But actually, it's often safer than a dull knife
Real?
because you need like pressure to cut. Oh, that's interesting.
Which means the knife is less likely to slip and cut you.
Wow. Okay.
So understanding those little nuances of each tool can make a big difference.
Totally. Knowledge is power.
Exactly.
All right, let's get specific now.
Okay.
What are some of the main culprits in the kitchen when it comes to safety hazards?
Well, sharp objects are definitely at the top of the list.
For good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, knives and graters, they're essential tools,
Mm-hmm.
but they can also cause some nasty cuts if you're not careful.
Absolutely.
So the book really highlights the importance of always using a cutting board.
Right.
It protects your countertops and, more importantly, your fingers.
Absolutely. It also helps to keep your knife from slipping.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then when you're done using knives, you've got to store them safely,
Definitely.
ideally in a knife block
Yeah.
or on a magnetic strip
Mm-hmm.
or even with blade guards.
Right.
Anything to keep those blades contained.
You know what's interesting about knives slipping?
It's not just about the cut itself.
Okay.
It's about what can happen next.
Oh, right.
Like if your knife slips off the food,
Yeah.
it could send the food flying,
Oh, sure.
creating another hazard.
Like a mess to clean up.
Yeah, or potentially even burns if you're working with something hot.
Well, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
So using a sturdy cutting board and making sure your knives have a safe place to go when you're not using them,
Right.
those are small habits,
Yeah.
but they can really prevent a whole chain of accidents.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so next up on the list of potential kitchen hazards. Heat.
Uh-huh.
We're talking stoves, ovens, microwaves,
Mm-hmm.
all those things that generate some serious heat.
Yeah. And can cause some serious burns.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure we've all had those close calls
Oh, yeah.
where you reach for a handle and you're like,
Mhm.
whoa, that's hot.
Too hot.
So the book stresses being super cautious when cooking with heat.
It's not something to mess around with.
Yeah.
Definitely not. And it reminds us to always use oven mitts or thick pot holders.
Yes.
Like those are your best friends in the kitchen.
Absolutely.
Never rely on just a dishcloth
Right.
because the heat can transfer right through it.
So oven mitts are a must.
A must have.
Got it.
It's really about creating a physical barrier between you and the hot surfaces.
Makes sense. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Always.
Okay, last but not least in our kitchen safety rundown,
Okay.
spills.
Uh-huh.
Now, they might seem like a minor inconvenience,
Yeah.
but trust me, spilled food and liquids can turn your kitchen floor into an ice rink in a second.
Oh, it's so true.
And the advice here is simple but crucial.
Okay.
Clean up any spills immediately.
Don't wait. Don't procrastinate.
Nope.
Grab a cloth and wipe it up right away.
I think we're all guilty of telling ourselves we'll get to it later.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really best to just deal with it right then and there.
It goes back to that idea of being proactive.
Mm-hmm. Anticipating and mitigating risks before they turn into bigger problems.
Totally. A spill is just a waiting game for someone to slip.
Exactly. So taking care of it immediately,
Mm-hmm.
that's the best way to prevent an accident.
All right, so we've covered keeping ourselves safe.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's move on to basic kitchen hygiene,
Okay.
which is all about keeping those nasty germs at bay.
Yeah, it's essential for healthy cooking.
And the book starts off this section by talking about the most important thing,
Okay.
hand washing.
The cornerstone of kitchen hygiene.
It really is. The book stresses that washing your hands
Mm-hmm.
is one of the most powerful tools we have to stop germs from spreading.
And that's crucial when you're dealing with food,
Right.
both for yourself and for anyone else you're cooking for.
Totally. I mean, we touch so many things throughout the day.
Oh, countless surfaces.
It's kind of gross when you think about it.
It is. And all those surfaces,
Mm.
they're covered in microorganisms.
Yeah.
Both harmless and potentially harmful ones.
So washing our hands before we even touch any food,
Yeah.
that's like our first line of defense.
Exactly. It's the most effective way to prevent those unwanted microbes from hitching a ride on our food.
Makes sense.
And you know what's interesting? Most cases of foodborne illness, they actually come from contamination that's introduced by human hands.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
It's true. So hand washing isn't just a good idea.
Right.
It's absolutely essential.
Okay, so the guide also lists the key times when hand washing is a must.
Yeah, it's helpful to have those specific moments in mind.
Totally. It's not just about washing before you start cooking.
Right.
It's also super important after handling raw meat,
Uh-huh.
poultry, seafood, eggs.
All those ingredients that can sometimes harbor bacteria.
Right.
And let's not forget, after touching garbage or cleaning products,
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
and of course, after using the bathroom.
Always.
So it's probably more often than many of us realize.
You're right. We should probably all be washing our hands more often.
It's a good habit to get into.
Agreed.
And those specific instances, they're not random.
Oh,
They're the moments when you're most likely to transfer harmful microorganisms.
makes sense.
Things like raw animal products and waste materials,
Right.
they're known to be hotbeds for bacteria.
Washing your hands after you touch them.
Yeah,
That breaks the chain of transmission.
exactly. It stops those germs from getting into your food.
Okay, so now let's talk about the proper way to wash our hands.
All right, so no more quick rinses under the tap.
Nope, we've got to do it right.
We do. The book gives a step-by-step guide.
Okay, perfect. Let's go through it.
So first things first, wet your hands thoroughly with clean, running water.
Warm or cold.
It actually doesn't matter that much. Both are effective.
Okay, good to know.
The important thing is the combination of water, soap, and scrubbing action.
Got it.
That's what really gets rid of the dirt and microbes.
Okay, so next up, soap.
Yes. Apply a generous amount and lather up for at least 20 seconds.
20 seconds. That seems longer than I usually do it for.
I know it might feel like a while when you're standing there,
Yeah.
but trust me, it's important.
Yeah.
And don't just focus on your palms.
Right.
Make sure you're getting between your fingers,
Mm-hmm.
under your nails,
Oh, wait.
even up to your wrists.
All those little nooks and crannies.
Exactly. Those are prime real estate for germs.
Yeah.
So the soap molecules, they trap and lift the germs.
Okay.
And then the friction from rubbing your hands together dislodges them.
And the 20 seconds is to make sure this all has enough time to work.
Exactly. It's about giving the soap time to do its job.
Got it. Okay, so after all that scrubbing, we rinse.
Yes. Rinse your hands thoroughly under clean running water again.
They want to make sure all the soap is gone.
Absolutely. Any leftover soap can actually harbor bacteria.
Oh, wow.
So rinse until your hands feel clean and smooth.
Okay, and finally.
Dry your hands thoroughly, either with the clean towel
Okay.
or let them air dry completely.
You know, I never really thought about it before, but using a clean towel is important.
It is. If you're using a towel, make sure it's fresh.
Mhm.
Like it hasn't been used by anyone else.
Right.
Or sitting around getting damp.
So single-use paper towels are probably the best option,
They're definitely the most hygienic.
but air drying works too.
It does, as long as you let your hands dry completely.
Perfect. So moving on from our hands.
Yeah.
The book also talks about how important it is to keep your whole cooking environment clean and sanitary.
It makes sense. Right.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, a clean workspace definitely helps prevent contamination.
Absolutely.
So the first thing the book mentions is to clear and sanitize your countertops
Uh-huh.
before you even start cooking.
Before anything else.
Right.
It's about setting up a clean foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So you're eliminating potential sources of contamination right from the start.
Okay, so clear first, then sanitize.
Exactly. And when we say sanitize,
Yeah.
we're not just talking about wiping away crumbs. It means using a solution like diluted bleach or disinfectant wipes,
Right.
something that actually kills germs.
To reduce the number of germs to a safe level.
Exactly. It's about creating a truly hygienic space to work in.
Okay, and then throughout the cooking process,
Yeah.
the book says we should be wiping down surfaces regularly.
Not just at the end,
Right.
but throughout the entire process.
Makes sense.
So countertops, cutting boards, handles of drawers and appliances,
Mm.
all those things you touch while you're cooking,
Wipe them down with a clean cloth or disinfectant wipe.
before and after you handle food.
This is all about preventing bacteria from building up.
Exactly. And it's especially important after you've been handling raw ingredients.
Right, because those can carry harmful bacteria.
Exactly. So wiping down after you've prepped those ingredients,
Mhm.
that's a crucial step in preventing cross-contamination.
Okay, and speaking of cross-contamination, the book has some strong advice about that. It says we should always use separate cutting boards for raw meat, poultry, and seafood,
Yes.
and different ones for vegetables and ready-to-eat foods.
It's a golden rule of kitchen hygiene.
Like non-negotiable.
Absolutely. You don't want to be transferring bacteria from raw meat
Right.
to something like a salad.
That would be bad.
Very bad. It's one of the main causes of foodborne illness.
So separate cutting boards are a must.
Definitely. Ideally color-coded ones.
Well, that's a good idea.
So you can easily tell which is which.
All right, so the book also covers some other general hygiene habits
Uh-huh.
to help prevent foodborne illnesses.
Okay.
And one of the big ones is proper food storage.
Absolutely. That's crucial for keeping foods safe to eat.
So perishable items need to go in the fridge promptly.
Within 2 hours of cooking or purchasing?
Yeah, I've heard of the 2-hour rule.
It's not just a rule, it's based on science.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
the amount of time food can safely sit out at room temperature.
Before it becomes a breeding ground for bacteria.
Exactly. Bacteria multiply rapidly between 40 degrees Fahrenheit
Okay.
and 140 degrees Fahrenheit.
So that's like the danger zone.
It is, but keeping food cold slows down that bacterial growth.
So we need to make sure we're not leaving food out on the counter for too long.
Definitely not, especially things like meat, dairy, and leftovers.
Got it.
And another thing to keep in mind is expiration dates.
Oh, yeah, those are important.
You're there for a reason.
Right. It's not just a suggestion.
It's a manufacturer's guarantee of safety and quality up to that date.
So we should be checking those dates regularly.
Absolutely. And even if something looks and smells okay,
Mm-hmm.
it could still be harboring bacteria after its expiration date.
So it's better to be safe than sorry.
Always.
Hmm.
When it comes to food safety, it's better to err on the side of caution.
Okay, and finally on this topic,
Yeah.
the book reminds us to keep raw foods covered in the fridge.
Oh, yes. That's important.
I mean, it's pretty simple, right?
It is. But it makes a big difference.
It prevents any juices
Which can contain bacteria
Right.
from dripping onto other foods.
and contaminating them.
Exactly. It's like creating little barriers in your fridge
Right.
to keep those potential hazards contained.
Okay, you know what I really liked about this section of the book?
What's that?
The hand washing challenge.
Oh, yeah. It's a fun way to make sure you're washing your hands properly
Exactly. So the challenge is to time yourself while you wash your hands.
for the full 20 seconds.
Yep, and to make it more fun.
Mm-hmm.
The book suggests singing a little song while you scrub.
It's such a clever idea.
Right.
It takes something that can feel a bit tedious
Yeah,
and turns it into a game
and it helps you remember to wash for the full 20 seconds.
without having to stare at the clock.
I love it. It's like gamifying hygiene.
It is. And it works.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of everything we talked about today.
Sounds good.
So when it comes to kitchen safety, the key is to stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your workspace clean and organized. Don't be afraid to ask for help
Right.
and use all your tools responsibly,
Absolutely.
especially those sharp objects, heat sources, and spills.
Be extra careful around those.
Okay, and for basic kitchen hygiene, it all boils down to washing your hands thoroughly.
At all the right times.
Yes.
And keeping your cooking space clean and sanitized.
By wiping down surfaces regularly,
And of course, preventing cross-contamination.
which means separate cutting boards for raw meats and veggies.
It's a must.
And we also talked about proper food storage,
Like refrigerating perishable items promptly.
checking those expiration dates.
And making sure raw foods are covered in the fridge.
Exactly. It's all about creating a safe and healthy environment in the kitchen.
And you know what? It's not just about preventing accidents and illnesses.
What do you mean?
It's also about enjoying the process of cooking.
Oh, that's a good point.
When you feel safe and confident in your kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
and you know it's clean,
Yeah.
you can relax and have fun with it.
Makes sense. It's like taking away the stress and just focusing on the joy of creating food.
Exactly. These habits, they're not just rules to follow.
Right.
They're ways to make your time in the kitchen more enjoyable.
I love that. Okay, so before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Okay, I like it.
Pick one safety or hygiene practice that you maybe don't always do,
Mm-hmm.
and imagine how consistently doing that one thing could change your whole experience in the kitchen.
It's about making those small changes
Right, yeah.
that add up to a big difference.
Exactly. So what's one small change you can commit to today?
To make your kitchen a safer and healthier place.
Think about it, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive.
See you then.